Bruh, are you really still doing the books?
Yes, man. I'm still doing the books, man. These folks need
Man,
their
you know we
books,
got
bro.
Andre Owens coming on the show today, man. The creator of Bovine League and the owner of Hiro.
That's cool and all, but these folks hit me up for these books, bro. I gotta get
Really?
them out. Yeah, man.
Really, man? Come on, you can't finish it up, man?
Bro, I'm a one-man team, man. It's gonna take time.
Alright, man. I ain't gonna press you about it, bro. I hold it down like I do always. Finish y'all,
You don't
man.
gotta say all that,
man. The folks waiting on books, man. Go ahead, man.
I don't care, bro. What's whatever, man. Do it, whatever.
Welcome back to the hood. Welcome back to Chill in the Green Box with Specks, Thompson, and The View. And once again, my co-host, he's not here, but once again, he's doing excellent work now. He's actually doing his books. He's still sacking them up, so he's doing actually something, besides no goofing off doing whatever teenagers do. But thanks, Andre, for coming anyway, man. Thanks.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm really excited.
And for the people who don't know who you are, give somebody a brief information or a brief summary of who you are.
Okay, well, my name's Andre Owens. I went to film school back in the day, so I was originally a cinematographer. I used to shoot like music videos and commercials and low-budget feature films and all sorts of stuff. I worked for a media training company for many years, teaching executives how to answer questions from reporters. So I did all kind of different camera work throughout the years. Worked for the U.S. Army Proving Ground doing weapons photography and videography. So I did all kind of stuff using a camera. But what happens when you're like a cinematographer or DP, you're doing creative stuff, but you're not doing your creative stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was just like, what can I do that I love to do? So it was like, well, I love comics. I've loved them my whole life, been reading them since I was a kid. So it was like, well, let me try to make those. And this was probably the late 90s. So there's no social media and the internet wasn't what it was today, but there was a website called digitalwebbing.com. I believe it still exists, but there was a lot of artists on there. So that's where I first found artists to work on my original books. So, so I really reinvented myself as a comic book writer. And then in the late 2000 teens, I was lucky enough or blessed enough to sell a script. So I reinvented myself as a screenwriter, which I'm now on strike with WGA. So that's
fun,
where I am up to this moment. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's cool, man. We'll dive into some of that, later on the show. But I don't know where you're located at, but some, I guess, are not aware of the reference. But are you familiar with the green electrical boxes that be in front of the neighborhoods?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
All right, so the show's called Chill in the Green Box. So of course, I don't know if you was able to do it. Some parents didn't allow them, but when I was growing up, we used to chill on that green box, and just discuss things, talk with your friends, hang out,
Right.
This show is basically it. So
great.
by doing that, there's 4 different segments on the shows, all music or comic related. And the first segment is called Breaking It Down, which because you'll break down concepts and ideas with your friends on that green box. So we're going to break your brain down so people know more about you.
Right on. Let's go to it.
All right. So I don't know if you're retired or not, but if you're retired from comics or whatever you do, you're just chilling back, what are you most looking forward to at that point of retirement?
For retiring, what I'm most looking forward to retiring is not having responsibility to do anything. That's my most exciting thing to get the retirement for. But actually, I never really planned to retire, from like writing or comics. Even if I get to a retirement age, it's one of those things I just love to do. And comics is like just a it's a labor of love. And indie comics, everyone that does indie comics knows you're not getting rich doing it,
unless you Robert Kirkman.
Yeah, Robert Kirkman, or there's a couple other brothers out there doing it. They're making some money off of it, but it's a tough hoe. I've been doing this for a long time, and I make okay money, but I'm not rich by any means.
That's fine. At least you're getting some money,
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Conventions, my website, that kind of stuff. So it works out.
Okay. Do you celebrate Halloween? And if you do, why or why not?
No, I celebrate Halloween. Yeah, I quite love Halloween. I loved it as a child, of course. Getting to go out to the neighborhood. I grew up in the out in the country, so it was going to get to go out to different people's houses and getting your candy was always such an exciting thing. And as an adult in college, it was fun to go dress up and go to bars and stuff and do that. I no longer dress up anymore. but I really enjoyed it, when I did, and I really enjoyed Halloween. Yeah, so that was something I really liked Halloween. I had one of my favorite things that I dressed as Halloween. I don't know where it came from. You know how things happen when you're living your life. Somewhere along the lines, I got a gorilla costume and a clown costume. And I used to combine those two costumes for years. A gorilla clown. So.
I bet you terrified some people.
I'm sure I did. It was the funniest thing is people didn't know who I was. You could roll in, no one knew who you were. Like, who the hell is that gorilla clown costume?
I bet that's funny. And what would you describe as your perfect breakfast?
My perfect breakfast. My perfect breakfast. Let's think. Okay, I guess I have to go back to childhood. My perfect breakfast would be a wonderful, crisp, milky bowl of Count Chocula cereal. Because that was
Halloween, that's Halloween again, right?
Halloween, yeah, it comes back at Halloween. I love it. And like when I was a kid, that was the thing I did. I mean, there would be times when I'd be sick to my stomach, but you put a bowl of Count Chocula in front of me, I'd eat that sucker quick. So I'd say, yeah, definitely Count Chocula. Now, if I'm going to like Denny's or something, I'm pretty traditional. I just want some, just like bacon and eggs. I'm pretty easy. Eggs over easy. Bacon, little hash browns, some toast. Maybe some pancakes. Mm-hmm. But definitely Count Chocula is my number one wish fulfillment cereal.
Okay. So what about the other ones? You care for the other ones?
Well, yeah, Frankenberry was okay. Frankenberry was okay because I grew up with my uncle, my grandparents, and my uncle and I, were close in age. So he always got Frankenberry, and I always got Count Chocula. And of course, I'd eat my Count Chocula faster than he did his Frankenberry. So I, dip into his Frankenberry. But then, so we have Boo Berry, and I think they got a thing called Brute Fruit or something too now.
Brute Fruit, yeah.
And I believe there's another one I saw coming out this year. I forget what it is. There's a woman character, I believe, on the cover.
Yeah. In my job, we have it. Well, funny part about it, in my job, I never realized this, but they done marketed those characters. So now it's fruit snacks and other things. The same thing, yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
No, so that's cool. So you do marketing?
Well, I used to do marketing, but now I'm just in retail. But I did do marketing before. Went to college for it actually. Then halfway through college, I started marketing for rappers, different artists and stuff like that. I'll be the guy, have the posters up or the flyers everywhere, the CDs. When they go to festivals and stuff, I have the table set up with T-shirts and all that stuff for people like that. Like I did that for, I don't know, for a good while. I think I did for about 6-7 years. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. When I was a cinematographer, I was in the music industry quite a bit because I saw a lot of music videos and a lot of low budget ones. I was in Baltimore at the time. I'm in LA now, but I was in Baltimore at the time, and I shot tons of low budget music videos for a lot of local rap groups and stuff.
Yeah,
so I
did the same thing. Yeah, that's so like see, I was DJ, so that's where I initially started with the people want mixtapes, and also the artists also want videos too. So I did. Right. I say, let me get the camera and make extra money. Yep. But actually, that was just me being DJ and locally in town. But what actually got me in the foot in the door industry, besides the internship with a record label, how to use a camera, and I forgot what happened to the cameraman. I think the cameraman went to jail or something. Something crazy happened, and I was like, I got a camera and I know how to put on this app, and I can make a quick little trailer. And we was going on the road, and the guy, he wanted recaps like every event so the artist can post on social media. I can do that. So I get the footage, and I can do that in an hour on my phone and airdrop it right to his phone, and he have it. He was like, man, that's crazy. But then, I wasn't I knew how to shoot videos and stuff. I wasn't passionate about it. So,
I understand.
So eventually, they found somebody who was real passionate about it, who wanted to do all this spectacular stuff, and it was cool. I mean, I ain't feeling the type of way because I wasn't passionate about music videos. Like I like what's it called? The screen treatment. I like doing those. Okay. And I enjoy those. Yeah. Hence why I do comics now. But
exactly.
And I like setting those up, like how the music video would go, because a lot of guys I was doing was their first music video, so they'd be like, let's go to this house and get my homeboys behind me and go over here.
Oh, right.
but it never made sense. So when
Right. No, I believe me. I
so when people
understand.
told me weird Viennese videos, I was like, let me listen to your song. Okay, let's do this, that, and they're like, oh, that's dope, yeah, and let's do some B-roll footage to go in between the stuff. Like, the craziest part, if you ever time,
Yeah.
it's a female R&B group, I guess. Like the name is Brave,
Okay.
BRA, YVE.
YVE. Okay.
Yeah, they remade a song, "Don't Walk Away." It was an older
Yeah.
song. They remade it, so I didn't shoot the video. I edited the video and made a music video.
Nice.
And the way they did it, it was where I seen it's supposed to be a breakup song. So
Right.
I took
Okay.
all the footage, how each girl had a little boyfriend, and they talked, they broke up in the song. And I edited that way. The dad was a dad manager, and he didn't like my video at all because I didn't put him in the video. Yeah, I didn't put him in the video.
He wanted to be,
Yeah, he wanted to be in the video.
of course he did.
They invited a whole bunch of friends and family over, so it was a cookout. So they wanted a cookout footage in there, and they wanted some weird Soul Train dance segment they had in there. And I said that makes no sense in the song. It was a breakup song. Why y'all partying and having a cookout and a breakup song?
Right, the breakup. Right.
So if you look on YouTube, it's two different versions of the music video. It's the one that he paid somebody else to do and put out. In my version,
make the cut.
In my version, I was like, well, I'm putting this version anyway because it's a better music video. So it's two of them.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's great. I'm gonna have to look that up as soon as we get off here. That's hilarious. I shot a music video for Willie D, who was from the Ghetto Boys, and it was an interesting thing because it was the same thing. We had tons of friends and family, so we had to set up this whole fake barbecue, this whole Juneteenth barbecue, and and literally it's 5 seconds on camera, maybe 8 seconds on the final edit, and it's like all these people and all this just because it was friends and family wanted to be involved. But yeah, believe me, man, I know how that is, with those low budget videos and people having just tired ideas or the same idea. That's one of the reasons that got me out of it. I was there in Baltimore and I was shooting videos and I was doing the same idea over and over. You know what I mean? And it was just like it just got boring. So I came to LA and I shot a couple things, but kind of moved away from that after a while. Got out of the music. Well, to be honest with you, one of the reasons I got out of the music videos, my ex-wife at the time, I made the mistake of bringing her to a set. And, some of those music video sets can get kind of raunchy. So she was just like, yeah, I don't want you doing this anymore. So
yeah, I had the same situation. I'm a DJ. So she got tired of all them coming to the DJ booth with me and stuff like that.
Right, yeah, you know how it is.
Yeah. But that was great. That was our first segment, nice and easy and whatnot.
Okay.
If we go to our next segment, being in comics, you should know all about this one. It's called the back issues.
Okay.
For those who don't know about back issues, if you want to know about my character's back origin story, you'll go into their back issues. So if you want to know who Maria Hill is from, Nick Fury, you go into her back issues, find more about her origin story. So in this segment, you can go into your back issues, find out more about your origin story.
Okay. That sounds great.
All right. Where are you from and what do you call your hood?
Okay, so I actually am from a small town in Western Maryland. It's a heavily Mennonite community called Morgansville. And I'm an old man, so back in the day, I actually integrated my elementary school with my uncle, who was about 5 or 6 years. He's like 3 years older than me, so he's in 6th grade when I was in 1st grade, I believe.
The same one you eat cereal from?
Yeah, same one I stealing cereal from, exactly. But yeah, so it was Morgansville is what it was called, and we didn't call it. There's no damn nickname for it because it was just a hick. I mean, it's 3,000 people, Now there's the bigger town nearby called Hagerstown, which is easier to find, and we called that just Hagerstown or H-Town a lot. Yeah, but that was, it was great growing up in a small town in a way. I mean, I did deal with a lot of bullshit because of race and that kind of thing. Excuse my language. But other than that, growing up in the country, it's a great experience, especially back in the day. I would disappear on a Saturday morning at 8 a.m. and not show back up to 7 that night, and they had no idea where I was all day. So
Okay, cool. Since you said you was in the music industry, so I assume you listen to music. So what was your first song or artist that got you intrigued in music?
Man. So I guess. Would probably be the Jackson 5. You know,
Oh,
because
okay.
back when I was a kid, you know, so it was yeah, it was definitely a Jackson 5 because it was like little Michael Jackson, you know, someone I could definitely identify with as a kid. You know, I was like, oh, you know, he's he's a little older than me, but it's still a kid. And of course, my family always said, boy, why can't you sing so you can make us money like the Jacksons? I was like, well, I can't sing.
So
So
was you listening to him before Michael?
yeah, listened to them before. Well, it was the Jackson 5. So when I was, you know, it was the whole group when I was a kid. So they're doing like Rock and Robin and ABC and, you know, all those
Mhm.
kind of songs. And of course, I was a Michael Jackson fan. I mean, you know, I'm old enough that when Off the Wall came out, you know, that's who I was emulating as a preteen. You know, it's like, oh, I
Okay,
want to be
okay,
like that. You know.
okay. All right. In comic books, what was your first comic or comic related TV show that got you into comics?
Comic related TV show or the comic book?
Either or, whatever got you there.
Okay. The
Or
first
both.
comic related,
Or both.
well, okay, so the comic related TV show I probably saw first was like Batman 66 or the old Superman from the 50s with George Reeves. They're probably the first, you know, comic book TV shows that I ever saw. So they're probably the ones that got me hooked on, you know, knowing who those characters were and understanding their mythology. But the first comic book, I mean, I'd read like the newspaper strips, you know, as a kid, and they had that Family Circus book, a comic strip with the circle,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. Yeah, I know that
So I
one.
read that, and like I remember going to the bookstore and seeing that as a collection, you know, and like a collected series. And I remember picking that up as a little kid, and it gave me my first understanding of like you know of timelines and how because it was the whole. If you read through, you see there's actually a mythology of something going through. So I understood that. So then after that, I remember I picked up like a Richie Rich comic or something like that. So I read that. But the first superhero comic I got that really got me hooked on comics for real was Superboy and the Legion. I believe it's number 216. And they had Ty Rock on the cover. And Ty Rock is shaking his fist at Superboy and these other characters. I didn't know who they were, these other Legionnaires. But I knew who Superboy was because of, you know, of the Zeitgeist and Superman TV show. So I knew who
Mhm.
Superboy was. But it was like, you know, this black character who's shaking his fist at Superboy, telling him, you know, basically to F off, you know, you're not coming here and, you know, occupying our land. You know, you don't care about us. You know, and as a kid, when I was maybe like, I think I was 10, you know, and it's just like, whoa, this is amazing. Look at this character telling Superboy to F off. So that really got me hooked on comics. I mean, I'm still a giant Legion of Superhero fan to this day. But, you know, like every other comic fan, I've read, oh my gosh, everything, you know. So, but yeah, definitely Superboy and the Legion. I think 216 was the issue.
All right. Going off of that tangent, you know, you being a
Yeah.
Legion fan, how do they compare to the Titans
Oh, well, I
for you?
mean, you know,
For you,
for
and
me,
it wasn't teen.
okay. Well, so the original Teen Titans I knew of in the '70s, you know, were different, but you know, the new Teen Titans when Marv Wolfman and George Perez took over, you know, in the early '80s, that was fantastic. I mean, I love that series. It was, you know, it was so much fun. It was beautifully drawn. Perez is such a great artist, you know, rest in peace. I loved it, but you know, the Legion is my heart. So you know, it's at the same time the Legion had Paul Levitz writing. You know, Mike Grell is one of my favorite artists of all time. He used to draw it. You know, and then they moved on to Pat Broderick doing artwork, and then Keith Giffen doing it. They had the Great Darkness saga. So it was, you know, it's fantastic, and that was all mid '80s stuff. You know, so I definitely am a Legion fan over the Teen Titans, but you know, the Titans are fantastic, and in other iterations over the years since then, I've always, you know, drawn back to the Legion. It's probably in fact, it's the only comic collection I've kept. I've sold off all my rest of my comics over the years, but I've kept my entire Legion collection. So I probably have, you know, I don't know, thousands of Legion books at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, my first comic book was that had an impression on me was the Young Justice comic book
Oh,
series.
yeah.
And I had
Yeah, those.
posters in my.
Well, that's what it is. You know, it's interesting you say that because those. See, it's young Injustice, and mine was the Legion or the Teen Titans. Those things attract young people, you know, because you can
Mhm.
identify more with those characters.
Yeah, and it just had like a poster I had in my room that said "Don't trust nobody over 16." Then
Ah,
then I turned 16, you know, I had to change it. But
ah,
so that was like, wait, I don't know, late 90s, and
right. Yeah.
I know telling the story, go on the shows like you is, yeah, first got me time that Young Justice book, yada da. I actually found the issues 1 through 25.
Oh,
What a year or two ago. The guy was just selling them in bulk, and I got them from like $12 from him, and they all in like
wow.
good conditions. So I was like, man,
Right.
just imagine that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Man,
so
so
I
you
did,
get them things for like 50 cents a piece. That's really good.
yeah, and what else happened? Uh, Brian Michael Business, he's one
Of
of
course.
my favorite writers, and he
Okay.
brought the series back, and I was like, oh my god, like the series that I grew up with, and is my writer doing the series, but he didn't do it. I mean, I think he did all right. People give him slack for it, but I enjoyed it. But I thought
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
crazy too.
he just did the Legion run. It was okay. I think Bendis is really good about writing. Like, I mean, look, I'm wearing speaking of Bendis, I'm wearing a Miles Morales T-shirt.
Yeah, yeah.
So, you know, I think he's really good about writing characters and giving dialogue. His plot sometimes the meander. Sometimes I
Mm-hmm.
don't know where things are going to go. And as a writer, I'm kind of plot driven when I write things more than character driven. But that's just me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. All right, last question of this segment. Uh, when did you find out that she was a nerd or a blurred?
I've known my entire life, man. Because when I was a kid, no one else. I mean, very few people were reading comics. Especially other black kids. It wasn't a thing. You know what I mean? It was like I felt. I mean, maybe I run one or two of my friends had it,
Mm-hmm.
but mostly it just wasn't. Most of the kids just weren't reading comics, and I was kind of ostracized that way. But like a lot of peers of comic book creators, and even probably maybe people like you that are fans and whatever. I created my own comics. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
so that's something that I was always able to dive back into my own fantasy world for power fantasy world. So yeah, that's for me is the way it worked.
Okay, okay, okay. All right, so on to my next segment.
Okay.
It's a double meaning segment.
Okay.
Um, it's called hotkeys. And
Hotkeys.
so, yep, hotkeys. So in comics, hotkeys are key issues where you want to collect, get them slapped up and graded. Uh, when like a new writer get on, or a new
Right.
artist, or a plot point, or a character introduce something like that. And nowadays, you want to do it because they're making TV shows and movies out of certain
Right.
comics, so you want those as well. Um, Also on music, it's certain buttons and triggers on the DJ's turntables that they'll press to trigger certain songs to come up during a time of the party and whatnot, just get the people
Right.
live and
Right.
going. So this segment of the show is topics that me and you discussed earlier that you want people to know about this interview that you take on with them afterwards. So we can
Okay.
dive right into that. All right.
Right on.
The first one I want to talk to you about is the history of your company. You got your own comic book company, correct?
Yeah. 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 So that's what I'm gonna say. Let me
Uh,
back up. So I'll go ahead.
so it's called Heroes Unlimited, right?
Yeah. Hiro. Hiro
All right.
Unlimited.
Yeah. So what made you go that spelling versus the
Well,
typical
to be honest with you, I had a cat and her name was Hiro. And my
Hmm.
ex-wife was in a play, and she played a character named Hiro at the time that we decided the cat. And we didn't name the cat Hiro Heiro. We named her Hiro. And when it came about time for me to do my do my own company, where I was going to create comics, it was in honor of the cat. So literally, that's where it came from. My first logo had a cat image on it back in the late '90s for Hero Unlimited. But yeah, it really just came from the name of of this little cat that I found in Baltimore one day when he was freezing cold. So we rescued her, and and the rest was history. She got to move on to Geneva, Switzerland, and live an incredible life. So Hero got to be good.
All right. And how long you had this company?
Oh gosh, since 1998, so 25 years now. Yeah, we was when I first incorporated it. So yeah, so a long time. Been doing it for a long, long time. Produced a whole bunch of books, over that time. A whole bunch of other things, under the Hero Unlimited umbrella. I've done. Did a really bad. I did a real, and don't look it up. I mean, you can look it up on YouTube if you want. But I did a really bad web series. It was only actually one. It was only actually been one episode because it was so bad. I just didn't have the heart to do more. But you can check it out. It's called The Psychedelic Detective. Check it out if you want. But yeah. So Hero's done a bunch of different things. Mostly we've been publishing comics. We've under the Hero banner. I've done I have 11 different books, including a 230-page graphic novel that I just released last February. Called Omegan Chronicles. That was like 20 years in the making.
Okay. All right. Before we dive into some of those books, what made you make the company besides like
Really, Nate?
going shipping your works to other companies that's already established?
Well, a little secret is, the comics world. It's not easy as a writer to just get into, established companies. It's not easy as an artist. There's ways to get in to be the Marvel, DC, Image, these places to see you, and it works that way. As a writer, it's a little more difficult. So what you'll find is a lot of writers that you'll see, even today. There's a lot of indie writers out there doing comics, because it's hard to get in to the industry without that. Now, there's a lot of my friends who have crossed over in the, like David Walker or Brandon Easton, these guys that have, definitely are in the mainstream writers now that can do things. John Jennings, these guys are working on a lot of really big name books. Jeff Thorne. So a lot of these guys started indie and they've moved to the mainstream. One day I don't like, I'm not a big fan of the mainstream comics nowadays, but of course, like I said, I'm a giant Legion fan. So if I had an opportunity, I would love to write the Legion.
Okay. Going to some of your works, you said one of them you said was on Megan Chronicles. Did I say it right?
Megan Chronicles, yeah.
And that's an anthology project.
Yeah, so Megan Chronicles is a graphic novel. So it's about a superhero, Francisco the Super Green, who he hates that name, but like the society's put it on him, so he's stuck with it. But he's returning. He's going to a planet to find the missing king, his friend, who had been kidnapped. And he goes on an adventure, like a Lord of the Rings style adventure around his planet to find his friend and the missing king, and ultimately confront the bad guy. And that's like a 230-page book that I worked on. For years. There were multiple artists worked on it with me. There are 5 main artists, but 3 definitely main and 2 artists did supplemental work. But there's been different colorists and writer, letters that worked with me. So it's been a whole bunch of. It's been a collaborative experience to get it all completely done. And I'm very proud to have it completely finished because it's almost like a life's work. I've done a lot of other single issue comics and to get that out, but actually have a full graphic novel was very fulfilling.
Cool. And what about your Sisters of Power book?
Okay, so I've got several books. So I used to do a book called Force Galaxia. It's one of the books I did. It's the first book I did, and that's an anthology. So in Force Galaxia, we had 3 stories, and there was Super Green 14, which is about the character I was mentioning earlier, Francisco the Super Green. It was about him when he was 14 years old. And we see his origin story and his adventures on Earth as a teenager. And then there was Omegan Chronicles that was serialized back then in this book, which I subsequently took out and turned into the full graphic novel. And then there was a book called Sisters of Power. Now, Sisters of Power is about an all-women's detective agency on Earth's rebellious moon. And so that was in the anthology. But then a few years ago, I decided I wanted to reboot Sisters of Power. So I found one of my good friends, a guy named John Crosby, who's a talented writer. And I brought him on to help to co-write Sisters of Power #1. And we produced that with a great artist named Cesar Moser. Cesar Mora, I'm sorry, from the South America. So he's a fantastic artist. And then subsequently for issue 2 of Sisters of Power, we brought on Isis Climbs as a woman writer. I've stepped aside. I'm just working as an editor from here forward. And Isis and John are working together. It was one of those things where it's like, I'm writing this book called Sisters of Power. It's about an all-women's detective agency, and it's great that I can write it, but it really could use, a woman's perspective. So I've been looking to find an a female artist, and Isis is just a fantastic writer. So I'm really excited to produce issue 2 with her, the story she wrote with John. I plan to do that issue 2 of Sisters of Power for Kickstarter after we do this Bovine League #2 Kickstarter that we're doing right now.
All right. Speaking of Bovine League, I'm finna go right into that because your Kickstarter is live right now. While I'm looking for the PDF, tell people more about it.
Okay, so the Bovine League. Okay, so the Bovine League are genetically altered superpowered cows from Switzerland. So they're in the future world with the rest of my comics. It's all set in an alternative future. But they're on a mission to find the stolen cosmic udder in the 4 teats of matter that have been stolen by the mad cow god Nandi. Now Nandi is the cow guardian of Lord Shiva, who decided he was tired of just sitting at guard of a god and wanted power on his own. So he's he's going around the world trying to unite the 4 teats of matter with this cosmic udder so he can wreak havoc upon the world. Now the Bovine League must travel around the world to confront him. So issue 1 was an introduction to the Bovine League. As you see on the screen right now, that's issue 0, which really introduced the Bovine League. It's an 8-page short story. But issue 1, we were introduced to the Bovine League. We learned about all the different characters. In issue 2, which I'm doing a Kickstarter for right now, the Bovine League goes to Scotland to face the mad dictator sorcerer cow, Black Angus. So that's what that right now. That's what issue 2 is about. We're raising funds to try to get them to pay the great artist Christian Alaminos that you can see on the page, on the screen. He just does fantastic work. So we need to get enough money to pay him. He does everything too. He does the pencils, the inks, the coloring, the lettering. It's his baby. You know what I mean? So he's really the artistic drive behind the Bovine League. And I love working with him. He interprets everything I write just very, very well.
What did you just pick an artist and this was art style, or what made you choose this art style for the book?
Right. So what happened? Okay. So I knew Christian. So I worked with a whole bunch of different artists, over the years. And Christian was an artist that worked with me on the aforementioned Sisters of Power when it was in the Force Galaxy anthology. So when I decided I was going to do the Bovine League. So let me step back. Now, let me tell you about the inspiration for the Bovine League. So the Bovine League came about when I was on vacation in Switzerland years ago, and I bought a coffee mug and didn't think too much of it. And I got back here to LA, and I'm looking at the coffee mug one day, and on the coffee mug, it has like all of the cantons or states within Switzerland represented, and each by cow. And each cow has like that state's colors to it, or that canton's colors represented with it. So I'm sitting there drinking coffee, and I'm looking at it like, hey, that's a great idea. These guys could be superheroes. So that's where that came from. So I approached my friend Shai Lurie to do the initial character design. So Shai, shout out to Shai, he did the initial character designs. And then from there, I went on, I needed to find a main artist. And I remember how great an artist that Christian was. And so you got him to come on board with the Bovine League. And that's where we've been running ever since. I've had other artists do pen-ups of the Bovine League, as you can see at the end of the page there. That was Sheikha Ludgu, who did that Bovine League as children. And I've had great other artists work with me on the Bovine League to do posters and pinups. But Christian's the main artist who is producing the book. And I just, I can't say enough. I can't give enough high praise to how great of an artist I feel he is.
Yeah, it looked real dope. It was real dope. So is that based like the Justice League but as cows?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, no, it's Justice League or the Avengers with cows. I mean, that's it's simply that. I'm crossover with little X-Men because even though it's a future world where there's like aliens and all kind of races of humans and cyborgs and robots, for some reason people want to look down on the cows. So so they get the X-Men prejudice of being these cows, even though they're out to save the world. People still look down on them, but. I have a whole 6 issue. The whole series is planned to be 6 issues. It takes Christian a while, because like a lot of us, it's not his main. He can't make it his main gig of doing artwork. So that's why we're running the Kickstarter, so I can just pay him, so he can actually do the artwork. And it takes him a while to do it because he's doing everything himself. So it's a lot of work. But I plan to do a 6-issue series, and this will be issue 2. Issue 3 takes the Bovine League to North America, where they go to Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, where the Amish are, and they have a run-in with the Holsteins, which is like an all-female Fantastic Four group. And then they end up going to Texas, where they face off with Bushwhacker the Bull and Babe the Blue Ox. They end up in Japan, where they face off with Big Cow and the Kobe Beef Syndicate. And the series ends in them confronting Nandi back in India. So it's a full run series, a full story arc that I want to do. It just takes some time and effort and money. Now, if you guys please contribute to the Kickstarter, because the more money we get, the quicker I can do more issues. So go to Kickstarter and find Bovine League 2 and support, please.
All right. Since being your own comic book company for like 25 years, Kickstarter, hasn't always been around. So has Kickstarter helped you do more, or change up for Kickstarter?
No, most definitely. Kickstarter is the best blessing for an indie comic, for me at least. Now, other people may disagree, but for me, it's been the best blessing for an indie creator, because my first books, Force Galaxia, I paid all out of pocket, and those books were 64 pages each. And, that's tens of thousands of dollars that I spent out of my own pocket, to produce those first 2 issues. And then it was back in the day, so it was before print on demand. So, you had to get it offset printing, so you have to get thousands of books printed to make it cost effective. You know what I mean? So I still got books in storage, from 25 years ago. I sold a lot, but I got so many printed, it's just, it just wasn't cost effective. Now, one of the main problems for indie comics is distribution. Getting we have these books, but how do we get the books to fans? I have my website and you go to conventions, but there was only one distributor in the country called Diamond Distribution, and they had a monopoly on everything. Marvel and DC have subsequently left them, but they're still the main distributor, and they're now becoming more indie friendly. But when I first started, they were definitely not indie friendly, and they wouldn't take books, so it was like you had to do the hustle on your own. So I used to sell them on the back of my car, just like CDs, hawking them, every which way I thought of I could sell.
I do the same. I do the same thing. I do the same thing.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Anything you can do.
I do the same. Yeah.
I used to go call people. I'd look up yard sales and see what people were going to have yard sales, and I'd approach them and be like, "Hey, can I set my comics here at your yard sale and sell them for cheap?" And people were very open to it. You know what I mean? So I was just, yeah. So you know what I mean? Yeah, you know what I mean? So it's just like I tried to sell those things any way I can. So what happened though when the pandemic hit, Diamond, lost a lot. Like stores, Diamond shut down because they're a warehouse. And a lot of comic book stores were in desperate need of comics. So a couple friends of mine, Milton Davis and Jason Reeves, got together and we formed Black Indie Comics Distro, or BIC Distro. And we had a distribution.
I've seen that.
Yeah, so that was our distribution company. So we had, at our height, we had about 85 books, and we were servicing a whole bunch of stores. Unfortunately, marketing and things like that. Maybe I should talk to you about marketing. Marketing and things like that kind of gave us we had to pause it. We're on a hiatus now, but we plan to come back. And it's it's definitely needed because that's what's really missing in the indie world is getting the distribution of our books into comic book stores.
Okay. Once again, you've been in it so long. So has it been easier for you getting in stores now versus before, or was it before easier because there was more stores?
It's interesting. I think it was easier before to get into stores because there were more stores and less indie creators. You know what I mean? Print on demand is like really, print on demand and Kickstarters, put a lot of books on the market, which is fine. I think the more to me, the merrier. Because I'm one of these people that all any rising, all waters rise everybody's boat. You know what I mean? So rising waters brings everybody up. So from my connections in Hollywood that I have from being a screenwriter, I've been taking a lot of my friends' comics to my connections and before their strike, and trying to get their books turned on because I have no ego in this. You know what I mean? So if one of my friends gets greenlit somewhere, it helps us all. It helps the entire indie world, number one, and it specifically helps the Black indie comic world a lot. So yeah, I think it was easier in the past to get books in the stores, but I think a lot of stores are more receptive now to indie books because they see that they sell. So it could be 6 of one, half dozen of the other.
That's right. I understand because locally, one comic book shop here, my books in the store, they sell and whatnot. In the other comic book shop, they straight up told me we don't support local creators.
Right. Yeah.
Straight up.
Which makes no sense. Wow. Which makes no sense. You know what I mean? Local creators are what, you think they'll be the backbone of what they want to do. Bring you in for signings, bring you in for these things, to bring a new audience in. They don't know who. I mean, you may have, they don't know you. You may have 10,000 followers, on TikTok or something. You're going to bring people that are going to come in to their store, to see your book.
Yeah, I never, when I approached them, I did it twice. I did it when I first started out, just trying to figure out how things go in the comic book world. And they told me they don't have they don't do it because they don't have a local or indie section. Back then I was like, oh man. But now since I know about comics, they do have an indie section because they got, Boom and all the other stuff on the shelf. So I was like, no, y'all just on unknown titles there.
Right, exactly.
I can't think of his last name. But we got one guy, he's part of DC now. I think Chuck Brown is his name.
Oh yeah.
He's local. He's 30, probably not more than 30 minutes away from us. That's where his hometown is. And they had him there twice signing books. And then he's not signing, the Black Manta or the what kind of stuff he did. He's doing the signings for Bitter Root and stuff like that.
Right.
And I was like, man, that's an indie book.
Right. Well, and it's written, Bitter Root's written by my friend David Walker. So
okay, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah.
It's a great book. That's a wonderful read. I really enjoy it.
well, I got it. Truthfully, he signed it for me. I haven't read it yet, but
Yeah, well, I think you'll
I
like it
hear
when you read it.
I hear great things on the internet about it. So I got it sitting on my shelf. So I'll take a dive into it. But I
Yeah,
thought that was
I don't know.
wild.
I think I don't know if Chuck was out in Comic Con, but I saw David and Comic Con just ended. I was just down there, and I saw David and Sanford Green, the artist, on the on Bitterroot. So it was good.
Mhm.
I don't know if they came to my panel or not. I had a panel down there about indie comics or turning indie comics into other media. So
No, okay. Since you're talking about Bitterroot, I think they was optioned out for a show, I believe, right?
yeah, it was. Well, that's just it. I mean, a lot of people don't understand. The way Hollywood works is there. A lot of shows get optioned. People think like because it was optioned, I believe, last year or maybe year and a half before. But people think when it's optioned, it's going to get made right away, and then they get impatient and they say like, "Well, what do you mean this? Why I've never seen this?" One of my friends, Sebastian Jones, that does Stranger Comics, Niobe's the book he does,
Yeah.
and that whole world. That was options with HBO, and I hear people being impatient now, saying, "Well, where is it?" And it's like, no, it's a process. It's a long process to turn
Yeah.
something into a whatever, if it's going to be animated or if it's going to be a live action.
Yeah. With that being said, having a project option like one of their projects, but there's a writer strike going on right now.
Yes, we are.
So
We're on strike.
so
Solidarity.
so let's say I think I don't know if my timing is right, but let's say it's 7 years, right? For the option, the company has 7 years to make something with it, or it goes back to the creator.
Right.
So with that strike going on, is it on pause or
I mean, that is that timing, you mean?
yeah,
Yeah, that's funny. I don't know. That's interesting because I don't know if how that would work out. You know what I mean? If they would say like, well, look, you guys were on strike from March to September, so you get an extra 6 months of what I mean. I get an extra six
yeah,
months of holding on to your project because
hmm
I mean, you know, of course, an option's great. You know what I mean, and you want to make sure when you do that option that the terms are really good, advantageous to you, the creator. So someone can't just take your project away from you. You know what I mean? But yeah, I'm not sure about that. That's an interesting question.
yeah. And also, since you're being a writer and you're part of the union or guild, how do you feel about it? Like, I heard different things about it, and I got my own take on it. But how do you feel about it, like as a writer?
Oh, I'm full blown behind the strike. That needs to be. I mean, literally, these guys are ripping us off. The streamers will not reveal what kind of money they're actually making, so that we could. Things have changed since the last deal. Streamings weren't around in 2008. The last time we created a deal, and there's a lot of issues monetarily involved. There's no royalties being paid. I don't know if you've seen that going around the internet, but even the actors, you see actors getting royalty checks of 3 cents. So
Yeah.
you can imagine what writers are getting. You know what I mean? And they're trying to get rid of writers on the television side. They're trying to get rid of writers' rooms, which are the lifeblood for us writers to mature into other roles. Without writers' rooms, we won't get to be that next chance to be the showrunner or whatever. You know what I mean? So you have certain creators here in Hollywood. I'm not going to start naming names, but there's certain creators here in Hollywood who don't want to have writers' rooms, are fighting against this. But it's one of the issues that we're trying to do is that, there's going to be a certain, if you're going to have say an eight episode show, there has to be X amount of writers on the staff. That's just the
So,
way for union rules.
so are they trying to replace a writer's room with AI? Is that what's going on?
Well, that's another thing we're concerned about. We're not just concerned about AI in general, but here's the thing about AI: we don't want to be able for anything to be created, the initial idea to be created with AI. We want protections against that. You know what I mean? Now, if you use AI for marketing, of this project we did, I don't know if a lot of people have a problem with that, except people in marketing, obviously, that are going to lose
Well,
their job.
in my case, I haven't used it yet, but I can put up. It'd be easy for me, so I'll put up an image of my book, right? And I can go on the AI thing. It says, have the view is doing this in his new world, and this going on. Make me a caption with it, and it will
Right,
generate
right,
me one in 1 second, and I can post it
right,
right there,
right.
and I don't have to think about it, and it's gonna be different every time.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, it works. for just speed, because
Oh yeah,
if you
no,
want,
I think there's a place for it. You know what I mean? I see all the downsides, and I understand why people are upset with it. Artists in particularly are upset with it, and I understand why writers are cautious of why we want to have protections. But I also see the advantages. And it's already here, and that's the thing I've been trying to stress to some of my friends that have been a little more upset with it. There's saying damn the machines or whatever. It's like the technology's here, people are using it.
we're using it right now.
Right, we're using it right now.
The
Right.
AI is writing everything we say down in
See?
transcript. And so as the show,
Exactly.
I have a transcript of the whole show, and it
And
says
that's
who
amazing.
says what. Yep.
Yeah, no. There's a place for you. I mean, look, I saw someone using AI, and I was telling my friend Erica about it. You know what they're using AI for? To come up with meal plans for their family. So they say like, hey, give me, they go to ChatGPT and say, give me 5 recipes with chicken, all different, between Italian, Spanish, Korean and Chinese. Give me 5 recipes for chicken, and using using that, and this thing will shoot out the 5 recipes, the ingredients, everything you need right there. And I think it's brilliant for that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Now I've tried to fool around with it creatively, and it's really dumb. It just because it just doesn't have a soul. No girlfriend's ever broken his heart. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it really doesn't have that we have as humans.
And it's funny people complain about AI so much, but we use it every day when we be like, "Hey Siri, this," or "Hey
Yep.
Alexa, this," or "Hey Google, this."
Yep.
That's AI. You talk to the AI just for
Yeah.
that.
Oh no, that's what I'm saying. People don't understand. It's already here, and you got to get used to it. It's like it's like complaining about. You know what it sounds like? Some people sound like when they were complaining about, say, 120 years ago when cars first started around. People were saying like, well, what about the people that had the buggy whip jobs? They're going to run out of jobs. Like, no, the technology's here. It's going to change everything. The way is we've got to get we've got to get in front of it legally and financially. I mean, that's what I was telling, when it first came out a year and a half ago with Mid-Journey and these art AIs. A lot of my artist friends were really upset with it. And I kept saying like, look, things will change when people start making money and lawyers get involved or unions get involved. You know what I mean? That's when that's how you get the protections against AI, because like I said, the technology's already here. You're not putting that genie back in the bottle.
Yeah. Where I'm at, so two places where I'm at. They always say like factories, the workers gonna lose jobs to robots. But I see in commercial or promotion about, so if you're that factory worker and you're scared the robot's gonna take your job, you can actually go to school, a tech school, to learn how to build that robot, so you already know how to operate it. Then
Right.
you can come get job.
Well, and you know what's so funny? You know what I really believe AI can replace? The friggin' CEOs. The people that are making these analytical decisions, sitting there going like they're analyzing how much profits are doing this, do that. AI can do that stuff, in seconds. You know what I mean? What do we need these? To me, don't replace the workers. Replace these guys that are making millions of dollars for making decisions that AI can make in an instant. They talk about workers being replaced. How about replace? Well, now I'm getting on my sandbox about politics. So I'll move back.
So I don't know. Have you watched the Disney Plus shows?
Yeah, I watch them. Yeah.
What about when on She-Hulk, when you find out Kevin Feige's really an AI bot?
Right, yeah, exactly. No, a lot of people didn't like She-Hulk, but I thought it was great because it was just like the comic book to me, breaking the fourth wall and all that kind of stuff. I think it worked really well.
See, what's going on with the Disney Plus shows? People are expecting superhero shows every time,
right?
But they don't realize the same superhero movies they've been watching haven't been superhero movies. You have Ant-Man's the heist movie. Captain America's espionage.
Right.
They're not superhero movies.
Right.
So
you've got it right. You hit it right in the head. That's the way. That's what you have to understand about writing scripts and or creating something is you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You know what I mean? Like you just said, it's a heist movie, but it's in a superhero genre. So it can be anything. It's like I always talk to people. It's like, if you have a story, like a simple story, like say, girl meets girl, girl loses girl, girl gets girl. You know what I mean? Very simple little story. It could be a Hallmark movie. That could be a Christmas movie. That could be a Western. That could be sci-fi. That could be, what I mean? It could be any genre. And the point, like you were making, is that, the story is different than the actual plot of what's going on.
Yeah.
That's another thing I'll get on my high horse about, and I don't know if I get too much if we have time for me to bitch about this, but I want creative people to understand, particularly new writers in the comics world and other things, that there's a big difference between story and plot. You know what I mean? Like story, is what it's about. Plot is what happens. So you have a thing, for instance, like, if you take, I don't know how many people read it, but if you take like Hamlet, right? You read Hamlet and you realize Hamlet's about a guy. The story is about a guy who can't make up his mind, right? To be or not to be. Can't make up his mind. But the plot is the same guy thinks his uncle killed his father, right? So you have to understand both those elements, because often when I talk to young writers, you'll say, "Well, what's your story about?" And they get onto the plot. You know what I mean? They don't understand that you need that thing to hold the whole thing together.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. With putting all that together, do you have any advice on writing for current writers or upcoming ones?
Yeah, well, that the story versus plot definitely is one thing that I'll say that you must know, as a writer, to know those things. Also begin with the ending in mind. You know what I mean?
Speaking of that, one of my favorite writers, I just lost his name. Just came. Brian Hickman.
Yeah, Brian. Yeah.
Yeah, he writes back to front, right?
Right. Because you want to begin. If you begin with the ending in mind, you know where you're going to go. I mean, look, you know how it is when you're writing. Stories take on a way of their own. You know what I mean? Characters take on their own life, and they can only do certain things. It's like, well, character X, I wanted him to fly, but he can't fly because the way I've established his character. So, we're going to find another way to solve this problem. You know what I mean? So that's a good, a thing, an issue that I think writers come up with. Now, another piece of advice I think I would give writers is never throw away an idea. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Just like for me, I'm very I'm very disjointed, so I have notebooks that I write ideas over, and it may say Bovine League number 4 idea, and then like right below it, Sisters of Powers number 13 idea, and it's just full of ideas, and then I take all that and put in outlines and actually write my scripts from that. But my advice is never throw away an idea, because you never know when it's going to work. Like, one of the things I think is most, and maybe you've seen it happen to you, is you write something, you go away from it, and you're thinking about your idea, and you think like, oh man, that would be good, and you go back to it, and you've already written it. So that's what always reinforces to me, like, oh, that was a good idea, because I've come up with it twice,
Yep.
And I think that really works.
I have the same thing you have, but I don't write down. I keep it in my phone, my notes. I just be at work, and I'm like, oh, that's a great idea, and I type it in. And I don't want to go type it in, and I scrolled up and I already had something similar to it already. I was like, man,
right, because that's when you're on the right wavelength of what you want to create. You know what I mean? That where you're because sometimes you know how it is when you're working on something, you may be so involved with you can't see the forest for the trees.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nice when you get that reaffirmed, like, oh, I'm still going that right direction, the way I wanted to go.
Yeah. Only bad part that happened with that. I was writing an issue for Legacy of the View, and I did an issue halfway through. I was like, man, this must be deja vu, because I feel like I've written this already. Right. And I wrote almost exactly same thing for different characters in my universe. I was like, man.
Wow. Yeah, it's funny how that works, right? You're like, the way the mind works and does that kind of thing. So, yeah. But I'm just trying to think of any other advice I have. Characters should end up, maybe not should, but characters often end up with a bittersweet ending. You know what I mean? The character will get what he wants, but doesn't get everything. It's like the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark. Indy finds the Ark, and it goes through this whole thing, gets the Ark. But what happens at the end? They take the Ark and they put it in a box, and they take it to this giant warehouse full of other boxes to be lost forever in the government. You know what I mean? So it's this bittersweet thing that happens. So I think, those are the different pieces of advice I would give the, new writers. Something else. Oh, there's 2 things I've thought about for characters. What happens to them in, throughout a story arc or whatever. No matter what you're doing with them, I think there's 2 things that usually happens with their main character. They're either gaining confidence. You know what I mean? They gain confidence, or they're learning to care. They learn to care about something. And that's the basic thing I think that most characters end up doing.
Yeah, it makes sense, because the View, I can't think of the name of the thing, but my little pitch for it is he's a reluctant hero, which the beginning of the segment explains why he's not here with me right now, because he's always doing something else. But he's a reluctant hero, but by the end of my story with him, he's gonna see why he needs to be the hero he's
Right.
supposed to be. Yeah.
Right. Right. Because he learned to care.
Yeah.
You have to. This is a great way to start. It's so funny. One of my early comics, one of the criticisms one of my friends gave me was like, "Well, the character's so selfish and mean." I was like, "Well, that's who he starts off as." This is the story arc. By the end, he's going to learn to care. He's going to learn that he needs other people and there's other things. Yeah, that's all my advice, I guess, for writers. The one thing I will give an advice, and I don't know if you would say this as a creator of comics yourself. The one thing I give advice about anybody that wants to create a comic or anything indie or anything you're spending your own money on, you have to remember the production triangle. You know what I mean? So you have the production triangle, right? So you have fast, good, and you have fast, good, and cheap. So you can have two of those three things. So it can be good and cheap, but it won't be fast. It can be fast and good, but it won't be cheap. You know what I mean? So you can have two of those three things. So fast, good, and cheap. So if you remember those things when you're going into creating a book, you'll know what you want to do. So if you only have a little bit of money, that's going to take, if you want it to be good, it's going to take a long time to create. That's the way I feel about like my Omegan Chronicles. I feel like it's really good. It took me 20 years to create,
Okay.
So, because I had no money, but if I had a lot of money, yeah.
Okay. All right. Before I go to the last segment of the show, give one more speed run of why people should back your current Kickstarter.
All right. Well, look, the reason you should back the current Kickstarter is you get to be involved in the Bovine League world. So there's a lot of tier rewards out there. So, like for instance, and the first award for only $5 the reward, you get a PDF of the new book, the Bovine League #2. We have tiers where you get multiple other PDFs or all the Bovine League books, and then all of the Hiro Unlimited books, which is there are 11, including the 230-page graphic novel. Then there's a tier where you get the physical copy of the Bovine League. We have a catch-up tier where you can get all of the Bovine League books. So you can get, Bovine League issue #0, Bovine League issue #1, which you're looking at right now, Bovine League issue #2, which is going to be the new book. And then there's a book called Hiro Unlimited One Shot that features one of the Bovine League members, Basil. So there'll be 4 books you get for, 4 physical books. And then for another tier, you'll be able to get all of the Hiro Unlimited books. So there's multiple tiers you're offered. We also have a great tier where you'll get to talk to independent filmmaker Daryl Lamont Wharton Rigby, who will give you the ins and outs of how it works to make an independent film. He's an award-winning filmmaker from Baltimore who now lives in Japan. And then we have another reward where you get to talk to Hollywood insider Russell Farmarco, who does a lot of sound production and sound post-production design in Hollywood films, credited over 200 different movies. And he'll give you the insights of how Hollywood really works. So we have a lot of different tiers for you to choose from if you go to the website right now and check it out. So remember, go there and look up Bovine League 2 or follow the link that I hope you'll post.
All right, cool. All right, man, we're going to the last segment of the show. It's called Dive in the Crates, which is another 2-parter, segment. So in comics, you already know about that. You're going to find that Legionnaire book, you like back in the day. You go in the crates in the comic book shop and find it. As for music, you're trying to find that vinyl, that CD that you love back in the day, that Jackson 5 or whatnot. So I'm finna dive in the crate. So this interview and pull some names out and that I thought. And I got many hats and many trades and whatnot. Let's say Bovine League get picked up, right? And you already know how to do the writing for it to be on a film or a TV series. Who would you pick as your director and production company?
Well, I think if it's gonna be a animated film, someone like Tim Story would do a really good job. He did such a good job with the Incredibles and stuff like that. I think that he would be really good about getting a Bovine League. Production company, I don't know. I'd have to look into it. It's one of those things where it would depend on where we were trying to go with it. If it was something more anime style, if it was produced by like if an anime company wanted to get it, it would go one way as opposed to more Western animated film. But yeah, that would all be in the future. I'd love for it to be animated or picked up as a live action film. Look, in my heart of hearts, would it be great for it to become the next Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? And we've got our pictures on Pizza Hut boxes. That would be outstanding.
Yeah.
And I'd be would not be opposed to that at all. But right now, all I'm worried about is trying to get this thing done as a comic and getting the story done and getting it out there for the fans to see.
Yeah. Yes, that's dope. Speaking of that, my new artist I got for Legacy of the View, he has to do some work on that movie. So
Oh,
he's
really?
starting, yeah. So he's starting to see like his stuff out. Like
Oh,
I,
wow.
yeah. So like this really got my book delayed because Seth Rogen came and like paid him. You know, Seth Rogen got way more
Right.
money than I do. So
Right. No.
I like go ahead and get the money. You can finish my book once you're done. But
Well, that's what the good thing about that, man. Like if he gets like if your artist takes off, then your book's gonna take off. You know what I mean? I mean that's
mhm.
I know a lot of people get upset because they'll say like, well, this artist isn't loyal to me or whatever, and it's like, well, unless you're paying them a lot of money and you got them signed to an exclusive contract, you can't control who an artist is gonna work for. You
Yeah.
know, they got to feed themselves. So
Okay. Okay. All right, man. Thanks for coming on.
okay.
If people listen to this or watch it after the Kickstarter has ended, where can they go to get these
Okay.
books?
So if this comes on, if you're hearing it after the Kickstarter's ended, you can get my books at HiroUnlimited.com. So HIRO Unlimited.com. They're all on there. It's my website. It's very easy to navigate. It's just because it goes straight to the page where you just click on it and buy the book. Not a lot of bullcrap word on there. There's a swag page where you can go buy a whole bunch of Hero Unlimited stuff. It takes you to an offsite, a third site, third person site where you can get coffee mugs, T-shirts, whatever you want with your favorite Bovine League characters or other Hero Unlimited characters. So go to HIROUnlimited.com. And in the future, look back for BICDistro.com, BIC distro.com, where you'll be able to find just tons and tons of Black indie comics. And there's my
Okay.
website now. So there you go.
I might. You might have my book on. I think I emailed y'all. I'm not sure. I mean, I first started, I remember contacting y'all, but I'm not sure
We
what went.
may have replied to you. I don't know. I mean, we've got we had so many submissions when we first started, as you can imagine.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, and there's only, like I said, there's only 3 of us that were doing it, so it was one of those things where it was like, well, I can't get through all this, So because we're trying to read every book, we don't
yeah,
want to put
yeah,
because man, look, be honest with you, there's some stuff that's just not up to par yet that that we're not gonna
yeah,
want to carry on our site.
yeah.
But yeah, so
Understandable,
that's all my books.
understandable.
Yeah, so there are
Yeah.
all the books I have. Milky Way Defense Marines, Hero Unlimited One Shot, I got there, Force Galaxias. Then the newest books, Omegan Chronicles, which like I said, I'm most proud of because it's such a exciting, 230-page graphic novel. What else we got down there? We got there's an autobiographical book called The Stoned Age about a bong store I worked on in Melrose back in the late 90s. So,
Okay. And if they want to follow you on your journey being a comic book creator or whatnot, can they find you on social media?
okay. Yeah, they can find me on most social media at RedSkew. So at REDSKEW, or on Instagram is at red_skew. So, and that would be the new threads too. But across other social media is at RedSkew.
All right, all right, all right. That's cool, man. Well, thanks for coming on, man. Enjoyed it,
Thanks for
and
having me, man.
definitely be looking into some on tier lists, man. Some on tier lists you had for your Kickstarter was intriguing. So yeah,
Right
most
on. I
definitely.
really appreciate it.
All right, man.
All right, see you.
Yeah, that's the show. Great guest, Andre Owens. Make sure you check out his book, Bovine League, and check out his company, Hero Unlimited, and support him everything you do, because great dude, great stories. And if you want one of them books that, the view was second up earlier, go to LegacyView.com, because he got shit from out. And if you want to follow him in all his ventures, follow him at Legacy of View on all social media. If you want to follow me at Specks706. And if you want to be on the show, hit us up at Chill on the Green Box on social media or chillandgreenbox@gmail.com. We out here.